It's a given now that the raw material in the new economy is brain power. That's well established. That's the way it's going to be. There's no turning back. And so we have to develop that talent in the region, in the state, in the country, and in fact across the world. And as a segue out of the physiological into the economic side of the argument, this is a slide that shows brain development that you can see is pretty much in the first 3 years, 5 years, and then the public funding that goes into schools and education carries out well into, you know, the time after they graduate from high school. So we would call this in economics not very well correlated, right, cause and effect on where the resources are going to where they should be applied. I'm going to talk a little bit about what they've asked me to do is economic returns to investments in early education, bringing it to the business community, putting it in terms that they understand as we try to bring them into the realm of supporting something that's going to be very important for their future workforce. So what are the returns to economic development? Well, this is a slide here from the Perry School Project, Perry Preschool Project. It was kind of the granddaddy of all the economic studies. They started out in Ypsilanti, Michigan with about 36 kids and tracked them now for 40 years. About 2 years ago, they found all but 4 of these kids 40 years later. And this is the returns they've seen. That cost on the bottom, $15,000 for a 2-year program, and what it has brought out into 17-to-1 returns. I think it's $283,000, right? And this is just by giving kids half-day kindergarten, quality programs, and they're 3 years old and 4 years old, and these are the gains. And you can see the gains are in welfare, in education, earnings, taxes paid, and a big one to the public in reduced crime. And a lot of studies come off of that. Here it is. You can see in the educational attainment levels as we check down here, less special education, achievement, better achievement at 14 years old, and graduated from high school on time, much greater than the control group. The other thing here, from economic sense more, economic effects by age 40. And you can tick down these where they've got, and if I can keep in my notes so I can read them because I can't see that screen from here. The economics effect. More of them earn more than $20,000 a year, so they're paying taxes. They're employed. They're contributing more to society, and they have savings accounts. So they're actually investing in the country, and they're able to take out mortgages and things like that. Huge differences than the control group. Another study, Abecedarian educational effects. This looks at kids younger, birth to 5 years old. But you can see right down the same checklist, special education, grade repeaters, high school graduation, and then on to 4-year colleges. Another one, the Chicago Child Parents Center. Same thing coming down, greater graduation rates, special education improvements, fewer grade repeaters, and juvenile arrest. Again, we get to the crime part. The nurse-family partnership. Let me click through this. We can see 48% reductions in abuse and neglect of the children. Reduction in arrests, again, the crime side of it, and in reductions in adjudication in persons in need of supervision. Now, the way I've laid all this out, these kind of go from study to study to study. All these studies were a little different, but they all addressed early childhood development, and all the results are congruent. The gains that you get from kids that go into quality early education and early childhood development programs, the returns are huge. In the parent nurse-family partnership, check down these. I'll leave these for you to read because they're in your packet. But it talks about health and pregnancies and fewer pregnancies and less frequent pregnancies, and on goes the list. I wanted to get to this slide because here, on study after study, similar but different studies reinforcing each other on the returns on investment. And they're huge. Perry School, 17-to-1, right? The CED folks, they'll tell you as businessmen, you can't replicate that year after year. You can with early child education. And in the Perry School, on, each one goes huge returns on investment. And the longer these programs go on, the bigger benefits you're going to get. Because as you make an investment, you compound that return on investment, and it's only going to grow through the years. 20% of this success goes to the person, 80% of it to society. The businesses benefits also, more skilled workforce, higher productivity, and less turnover, which you know is expensive when you have to keep hiring new people up. The impacts on the national economy, on a national macro sense, they're huge. This was done by the Brookings Institute, Elizabeth Sawhill. They ran this thing out 75 years. It goes out to 2080. The base case they've got, this would add $2 trillion to the U.S. economy. This is all in net present value dollars. The U.S. economy now is about $13 trillion. Add $2 trillion to it, $400 billion in increased tax revenue from these programs going forth. And you can see on there where it dips below the orange line, you know, that's a cost. That's because those kids are staying in school longer. So instead of working and paying taxes, they're staying in school longer, so they're going to learn more, develop the workforce, and make better returns as things go forward. Impact on state budgets, from Robert Lynch's work. Again, the returns are realized early, often, and it climbs hugely as time goes on. I want to get to, so this is representative. He did a study of all 50 states, and this is a representative graph of that. You can see, again, there's a little cost there on the yellow line as we go up. That's because there's an increased cost on funding kids in college. Nice problem to have, I think, as you're looking forward, the new workforce. This is what it is in Wisconsin. The Wisconsin taxpayer will see the cost, big cost, $126 million to do this. The good news is the budget surplus, right, in 2050, you realize another $1 billion tax revenue coming from higher incomes and less state expenditures. In Wisconsin, the benefits exceed the costs in as little as 8 years. So before the kid's even out of school, the whole state is reaping the benefits from this. Cost-benefit ratios there, 3.7 to 1. It's a wise investment. It's an early investment. The sooner you do it, the better and higher the gains are going to be as you go forward. So, if we need a talent economy, what are the questions? We've answered them. What's the greatest job needs? Skilled, creative, interactive occupations. What are the returns? 17 to 1 returns. You can't replicate that going forward. 80% of that goes to the public. Is it fiscally prudent? The study we did in Wisconsin, just looking at the K through 12 fiscal flows, the cost was less than 1% of the total school budget, public school budget. It's a small amount. And what's your alternative investment? Well, I say it's not a new mall. Study after study has shown that developments like that at best pay zero returns on that. So what I want to leave you with on all of this is you've got to use the right policies. You've got to change the policies that we're applying. Education is not a function of poverty. Poverty is a function of education as we go forward. If you take nothing else out of my presentation, this is the one you ought to take forward. And we've got the power, and you all got the power to help change the policies that are being applied for the good of us all. So that's what I have. Thank you.